edition of the Contractor's Secret Weapon weekly podcast with your hosts, Dave Negri. This program is dedicated to helping contractors, remodelers, painters, roofers, roof cleaners, and business owners in the construction industry gain an unfair advantage over the competition. This program supplies you with information that the competition doesn't even know exists. This session brought to you by ContractorsSecretWeapon.com.
Before we get into the conversation with you, I just want to do a shout out to our sponsors who help promote Contractor's Secret Weapon and just some of the things that they have in store for you, our listeners. Hey, is your phone ringing enough? Do you want it to ring more with highly motivated and qualified buyers that contact you, the contractor, directly? No more waiting for the phone to ring. Just answer that phone. Best Home Services leads are dedicated to making your phone ring with motivated buyers that call you directly. There's no obligation to talk with them. Just go to ContractorSecretWeapon.com/money. Fill out the form to secure your discount on the setup fee. Do it today. This special will not last forever. Check them out at ContractorSecretWeapon.com/money.
Running a small business is no easy task, and I should know because I had a service company for almost 10 years. I am the founder of a software called Radius Bomb, and it's unbelievable. And for all the listeners of Contractor's Secret Weapon, we have a special offer for you to check out. If you want to send hyper-targeted, laser-focused, super personalized postcards to your exact prospects using a map while sitting in your underwear, then go to ContractorSecretWeapon.com/Radius Bomb, and we'll give you your first 100 postcards for free. Just go to ContractorSecretWeapon.com/Radius Bomb.
Hey, this is Dave Negri with Contractor's Secret Weapon, and today I have an exciting guest with us, Mark Z. Fortune. And Mark is a small business marketing consultant, master certified duct tape marketing consultant, and a co-author of a recent Amazon bestseller, The Small Business Owner's Guide to Local Lead Generation. And in 2014, Mark began pursuing a long-time dream and opened his firm, Fortune Marketing, with the goal of working with small businesses to help them grow and prosper. And as the son of a small business owner, he grew up seeing the challenges small business owners face every day from a competitive pressure and time constraints. So Mark believes that the challenges in small business sales and marketing are not insurmountable, and they can be met with a disciplined and focused approach. He believes that the technology and media landscape today makes it easier than ever for small businesses to compete and win against larger competitors. And Mark particularly enjoys working with small businesses because results are easiest to see when working with a small business, and it's easier to tweak and adjust marketing strategies for small businesses without having to navigate multiple layers of bureaucracy. I know that one. Pause. I can take that out. So, Mark, I just want to thank you for being with us today and sharing your story and some of the things that you've come across helping small business owners getting it all done, because that's really the hardest thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is, and thank you so much, Dave, for having me on the show. I'm happy to be here.
Great. So, getting it all done. I know a few minutes ago we were talking about, you said that, we've got always get that list of things to do, and we look at it and say, it's crap, I'm not going to do that.
Well, I run into this, all the time with my clients, and it usually, a lot of times when I start working with a client, especially a contractor or somebody in a remodeling business or something like that, they usually come to me with a frustration of, we're doing a bunch of things and we're not sure what's working, or we tried a bunch of stuff and we stopped because we just got overwhelmed. And it's almost never a result of a lack of things to try and a lack of things to do. It's almost always a lack of a plan or a strategy for actually figuring out what's the best opportunity to grow the business, and having a plan and a strategy and the focus for, getting the work done. Is almost always where it really hits. There's a million different ways to market a business these days,
sure.
But it's figuring out what mix and what strategy and plan you want to go after. It's usually the part I see lacking most when I start working with a client.
Right. So that's kind of funny because I know that a lot of guys in the contracting arena feel guilty about not doing any marketing. They know they need to do it, and then it comes upon someone who walks in the door and they just write a check and hope that it works. So,
Right.
I love it when you say, well, it's the plan, it's the strategy, it's the making sure that you've got a plan to go through, because otherwise, the whole thing that I see, especially when I start on business, is just throwing mud against the wall and hoping something sticks, and that's not the right way to do it.
Yeah, and there's a variety of reasons why that happens. For one, contractors are getting bombarded by, cold calling specialists and spam emails of, we can guarantee a first page ranks on Google tomorrow. And it all sounds like there's an easy button. And, it seems relatively simple to go get on Facebook, right? I mean, you're already on Facebook, or you've got friends or family on Facebook, so I'll just get on there and the business will just flow in. But, it's with so many channels and everybody trying, there's so much noise out there that cutting through what really happens and working with somebody who can understand your business and take some time to figure out what you're really after, it just rarely happens, but it's so important, because otherwise, it's totally the spaghetti against the wall plan is what will happen otherwise.
Yeah, and it gets so blurred that you really don't know what works. And of course, I found out earlier that when I didn't track anything, I couldn't know whether anything worked. So I was just get frustrated for spending.
Right, and the best thing about digital and online marketing these days, like you mentioned in the intro, is it can be very accountable if you know what to look for and what to track. Right, if you know who your ideal customer is and have some idea of who that persona is you're after, and you've got a plan for which channels you want to employ to try to communicate with them, then you can track whether or not it works, right? You'll know whether or not people opened your email or found your site through organic search or clicked on your pay-per-click ad. But you don't have to do all of that at once, right? Start with what you know and are comfortable with and build out from there. But it all starts with understanding who you're trying to get. Everyone with a pulse is not a targeting strategy. And it's not a profitable way to run a business.
No, because it's like, I was just reading, like I said, we're redoing some of the podcasts, and, your target market, and you ask people and they'll go, oh, somebody who owns a home. Or you go, really? And you go,
any home, anywhere?
Any home, anywhere, any income. And I'm, because I like to be able to, I've got my whole avatar just boom. I just ask me who it is, and I can tell you who they are. John and Mary, they live in a house of $500,000. John has a nice income. Mary's a stay-at-home mom with teenagers or college kids, and she takes care of the home because they know that in the future when they go to sell it, it's going to have to be kept up. So that's one of my perfect clients. So
right.
That's who I market to, but that's not who I take business from.
Right. Yeah. You'll probably never really be 100% just your ideal avatar, right? Like you said. But if nothing else, what it does, if you have that idea in mind, is who isn't, right?
Yes.
You can disqualify very, very fast when you've got that kind of a picture in mind.
Right. Yeah. And one of the things that I love so much about the digital age, and of course I'm an old guy, so I'm like the old school, and it took me forever to get into the digital age, and because I like mailings and stuff like that. But even with the new all the digital marketing, you can find out what's going to work within a very short period of time for a very limited amount of money, as opposed to sending out 5,000 postcards and having the wrong message on there.
Yeah, the cycle between investment and return in the online world is much faster than in traditional marketing. At the same time, a lot of times what happens and I've seen this happen with a number of contracting businesses I've worked with, is they sort of forget what worked in the offline world, or they don't even know what happened. Referrals are the best example of this ever, right? I mean, if I had 10 contractors in a room and asked them, where do your best customers come from? At least 8, if not 9 or 10 of those guys are going to say word of mouth and referrals.
Right.
don't have any plan for how to get them, right? They treat them as happy accidents, right? It's just sort of, it's a bluebird when it flies in and they're great, but I have no idea where the next one's coming from. Well, follow up, post project follow up, right? During the project, letting neighbors know that you're working on the Smith's house and you'd enjoy the opportunity to speak with them about their needs. I mean, that's all sort of a referral strategy, and it doesn't have to be purely online, but that can certainly help and accelerate things.
Right. It's the little things that add up to the big thing. And I love Dean Jackson's strategy on the 3 forms of sales: before the sale, the during the sale, and the after the sale.
Right.
And he always says the most profitable part of the whole sales process is the after the sale, which everybody misses out on.
Right. Yeah, people sort of think once a deal is closed, that's it. Your job is done.
Yeah.
And it's really just starting.
Well, yeah, because then they can be a repeat customer. They can be an avid salesperson for you for free. Of course, I don't like the word free. I would always send a gift, a thank you card, brownies, just a thank you. A thank you is monumental in today's market. I mean, just a little postcard, thank you.
Yeah, and almost always when we start working with a client and we start asking why their best customers choose them, they'll usually say it's great quality or great service, something like that. But when I get the opportunity, I get on the phone or via email or via survey with their customers and say, tell me a time when Smith Contracting really came for you, right? Came through for you, or when they really delivered beyond your expectations. And, the first answer is typically, oh, well, the work turned out really good. I'm like, well, what does that really mean? And they'll give me some story, some vignette of, well, the deadline was coming right up against to get it finished, and we had a big event coming at our building or at our house, and they stayed, all night, one night to get it all cleaned up and shined up, and it was wonderful, and they really went above and beyond. Well, that's the sort of stuff that will really get referrals flowing into your business if you can publicize and promote those kinds of messages. And I think, what happens is we're just all too busy to stop and figure that stuff out. But if you do it well and you do it consistently, asking for this type of information and finding this stuff out and sharing that information and putting it into your messaging, it will smooth out the peaks and valleys between projects, right? When things come in and when things go out, you'll get, over time, this is what gets you a steady flow of projects, in the pipeline to get delivered and keeps your sales up and keeps your company growing.
Yeah, and everybody loves steady. And I think, I've always said one of the biggest challenges with this, and I guess it's really every business. It's just not just the contractor trade, but it's small business in general. They get a job and they do it and they're great at what they do, and then they go market instead of having, like you said, a pipeline of things that just keep coming in, and just all the time there's something coming in, a phone call or two or whatever the case may be. But then they stop marketing and they go do the job.
Right. So, yeah. As much as I wish I had a system for creating 10 more hours in the day, so you had time to do this. I don't have that easy button. That's not in my toolkit of things I can bring to bear. But what we do, we describe marketing as a system, right? You've got a system for payroll or for accounting. You've got a system for service and delivering the projects that you do. You need to have a system for marketing, and it's not, okay, this week we're going to try marketing, and next week if we're busy we won't. You'll never get ahead of the curve if you try it that way. It has to be a system and a process for attracting and retaining the right kinds of customers into your business.
That's so amazing that you talk about the system that you need to create for your marketing, because as you were talking, I'm thinking about, I do have a system for accounting, and I do have a system for, payroll and all this other stuff that goes along with the business. And those are all systems that don't bring me in profit.
Right. Marketing's the one that's supposed to keep it coming, when you're busy doing other stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. We don't think about that.
Marketing feels, to most folks, marketing feels like it's something that can be flipped on and off at a moment's notice. And I suppose, technically speaking, it can, but every time you flip it off, you're going to fall farther and farther behind.
Well, yeah, because I'm envisioning, you flipping it off, and then it's my always mind picture is of getting a good marketing or program going is like pushing that car. You know how it takes forever to get it going, but once you get it rolling, you can just push it
Right.
with one hand.
Right.
That's how I've always looked at marketing. But then you stop it or pumping the pump. Remember, I don't know if you're old enough to remember those pumps of water.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
you just at least they were in the cartoons.
Well, I mean, think of it this way. A lot of times, I had this conversation with a spoke at a sort of a lunch and learn event from our local home builders association earlier this week, and it was clear we were talking about ways to generate more business online, and it was clear that there was definitely a belief in the room that a website's sort of a glorified brochure, right? And it's a bunch of pictures of your past projects, and that's kind of it. And the message I'm trying to get across is, man, your website's your 24/7 by 365 salesperson, right? I mean, you've got to be found online. And people are going to be looking for you when you don't even know it. So that's where search engine optimization really comes to bear. And your website's your ad, right? It's you presenting your best face to the online world that can tell them whether or not they're the best kind of customer for you, right? If you're a custom home builder and you deal in just higher end homes, your site needs to reflect that.
Yeah.
It gets sort of lost in the shuffle of, man, I've got so much other stuff I got to worry about today. I'll worry about that later. But later's never going to get easier. You got to have some focus and some discipline and a commitment to making this work, or partnering with folks that can help you make it work, or it's just never going to get done.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I'm like I said before, I was starting to rewrite some of my posts or podcasts, and the one I'm working on now is boring marketing. and I'm just taking everything, or just taking everything, starting off with boring as the flyer, and we're going to treat everything like it's the flyer. If it's boring, it could be your website, it could be your business card, it could be your truck, it could be because it's just plain Jane, plain wrapper. It may have a nice picture on it, but that's about it. There's no call to action. There's no information for the customer to focus on why they would even want to do business with you.
Right.
And these are all, like you're saying, these are all important things. And like at that lunch and learn, I mean, yeah, they know what they don't know. They know what they think they have, but they don't know what they need to get in more business.
Yeah, and I think you did a good job of nailing it there, Dave. I mean, if you look at so many different, if I pretty much in any town that I ever work in or folks I deal with, if you pick out 6 builder websites, contractor websites in that town, if you cover up the logo and look at them, if you could tell any one of them apart, the one you can tell apart is probably doing the best. But more often than not, You can't tell them apart. And I don't know if I'm looking at, if I cover up the logo, I can't tell if I'm looking at Smith Builders or Jones Builders, right? And that lack of specificity and lack of uniqueness into what makes your company different and better than the others has a whole lot to do with why you end up competing on the easiest thing there is to compete on, which is price.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't even want to go there.
Yeah, and that's just a race to the bottom, right?
Yeah,
Who can make the least amount of money on this deal?
Right.
It's like what they're.
Oh golly, it makes me sick. You think about that. It just nauseates me. You live by price, you die by price.
Well, and if you manage to establish some differentiation,
sure.
People tend to think, well, somebody's going to copy this. Well, yeah, they probably will, but you're a step ahead of them. And if you're doing it, I guarantee you, 10 of your competitors aren't, right? So you're going to leapfrog a lot of these guys. You just really, it takes some focus to get it done. But nothing worth doing is necessarily easy. It can be relatively simple, but it takes some time to get it done.
Right. Yeah, that's the wild thing is just like you said, you just cover and the ad and they're all the same. I have a friend that calls that incest marketing.
Yeah.
Just because it looks pretty doesn't mean it works.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, just a website full of nothing but pretty pictures with no explanation as to the value you delivered on that project beyond the picture itself is going to be tough because I can find 5 more that look just like it, probably.
Right, or even.
But there's something unique you did, right?
Yeah, there is, and I, like to gather. I'm a information gatherer, so I would always get testimonies, or I would do surveys. I wouldn't say they were testimonies; they were surveys. How did we do? How didn't we do? Did we live up to your expectation? Is there anything we could have changed? Should we have changed it? And do you have anything that you think is necessary? And when you get I'd send them out with a self-addressed stamped envelope, and I'd get about 35 to 40% return response on those. And it was amazing that what the people said. And I did it because I really wanted to know, because I wanted to be better. I wanted to be better than the next guy. So if there was something I could do better, then I would do it. But they would always go into my folder of, well, here's all the people that liked us, and and here's a few that didn't like us.
Right, and you got to handle those appropriately as well,
right.
And that's absolutely the way to do it, because especially for the ones where it went great. These days, it's so easy to leave a quick review on your Google page, on your Google listing, or on Facebook, or on Houzz or Home Advisor or Yelp or whatever. And that's getting picked up, and not only seen by consumers or by customers or by folks when they go out and search. It's also getting picked up by the search engines, and it's being returned in search engine results. So, I have a number of slides when I give these talks and stuff that show which. It just says who are you going to choose. There's 5 contractors listed, and one of them's got 25 5-star reviews, and one of them's got no reviews. Well, who are you going to call first, right?
Absolutely. Matter of fact, I was reading a report the other day that says that only 6% of the people will leave a review, but 90% of the people who are looking for services to be done will check and look at the reviews.
Right. They are digital proof.
Yeah.
Reviews, online reviews, are referrals. Now, they're referrals from people you may not necessarily know.
Yeah, that's okay.
But I'm going to read, and sometimes I actually give more credence if it's, if there's 25 people saying different things about this business, I don't care whether or not I know them. I may be more likely to use them just because this many people have taken the time to rate them and give them some feedback.
Awesome. Now, when you do your marketing stuff for your clients, do you have a program for referrals and stuff like that? So
yeah, so we try to start, strategy before tactics. So I when I start working with a business, the first thing we do is have a couple conversations about who they're after. Who's your ideal target client? What is your vision for the business, and who do you most want to do business with, and where are you most unique? And that can go pretty fast because everybody knows it. They just haven't necessarily documented it before because they've been so busy chasing things. Once we've got that and we can sort of understand where the main marketing challenges are in their business, right? If it's a lead problem, we just don't have enough at-bats, so to speak. We'll talk about, depending on the business, is it an opportunity to run some very targeted, pay-per-click advertising, or work on win-backs, or just immediate customer referrals, because that can almost always start to get the phone ringing pretty quick.
Yeah.
If it's sometimes, there may be an instance where a company has had some negative reviews from either, sometimes it can be disgruntled employees that torch you online, or, a couple of projects didn't go as well as you'd hope, but they were a long time ago, but they're still sort of dominating search results. How are we going to work to turn that approach around? And we just sort of build out from there. I mean, ultimately, we want to have a full online marketing presence, online and offline, that generates a consistent, steady flow of leads profitably for the business. That's what we're after. But that won't happen in the first 24 hours of working with me, right?
That's crazy to even think that might, yeah.
But some people think it does. And I think a lot of times that happens because, one, they need it.
Right.
And 2, they've had somebody else spam email them that day saying it can happen in 24 hours, which it can't. But I want to understand the business, and I want to look for specific, challenges that we can address that will return positive results for the business sooner rather than later. And that usually ends up being some form of lead generation type of activity, depending on, sort of state of the business. Do they have any online presence at all? If not, we're going to worry about offline some while we build up online?
Sure.
Or are there certain things we can turn around?
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Diagnose before I prescribe, though. I got to understand what makes you tick and how the business really works before we can apply stuff that's really going to work. There's no real one size fits all sort of thing.
No, it can't. It's because I've always, people say, well, what about my business? I said, what about it? And they go, well,
Yeah.
Well, my business is different. I don't think so. But
the principles of marketing are not different.
Yeah.
It's just solving a problem.
Yeah, people are people and problems are problems. And the funny part is, I'm sure that you've come across every person has a personality, and it's also reflected in their business. So, you're probably going to recommend things that would go along with their personality as opposed to direct opposition to what they would do, unless they've got a big enough team where they can pass that off and say, Bob, you take care of this because I hate it.
Yeah, and sometimes I work with companies who are all from the size of Mark, just make the bad man stop, right? You just handle it, and you go take care of it. Versus, I have a number of clients, and I love working with these guys too, who are very hands-on and really want to understand the how and the why and the theory behind what we're doing and all of that. And I'm great with that because it creates a dialogue where we can decide, well, do you want to enter this kind of a market, or are you after this kind of a product type, or are you rolling out a new service? And we can figure that stuff out. And that's always a lot of fun to really sit down with business owners and their teams and help figure out, how to take it to the next level in terms of their marketing.
Yeah, if everyone, has just gotten involved enough, just not to know exactly what you do, but to know the principles behind it so they've got a clear understanding of what you're doing. And it actually would help them make better business decisions based on their marketing.
Right. And I tell my clients, I'm like, look, my job is to work myself out of a job, right?
Yeah,
we're going to get your business so big and, profitable to the extent that, you need an in-house marketing team. So great.
Right.
Well, I'll even help you hire them.
Cool.
But we got to get you there first.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the first hurdle.
Yep.
Mark, this has really been awesome. I really appreciate all the stuff you've been telling us today because it's really common sense stuff. What would be one thing that you would leave our listeners with that it's been in the back of your mind you want to get out?
Have that persona, or you called it avatar, in mind before you start doing marketing, right? Everyone with a pulse is not your target market. Understand, and I really like the way you did it, Dave. Give them a name, right? We want Holly Homeowner, or we want John and Barbara Smith, and understand where they are in their lives. And it's not that hard to think of who they are. Just think of your best customers.
Yeah.
Of all the projects you run, think of the 10 best ones and the ones that brought you the most referrals out of it. Those are the folks you want to target. And if you can write, and not just in your mind, write it down, right? Give them a name, talk about their demographics, understand where they are in life. And if you will filter your marketing and sales growth opportunities through the lens of that persona or that avatar, you'll get a lot farther, a lot faster.
Cool. So it's being focused and have everything out. Mark.
Yep, and have a plan for getting the work done.
Yeah.
Put time on your calendar.
Yeah, it's like going out to a job site and just say, well, everything's here. What do I do next?
Yeah.
It's not going to happen good. Mark, how do our listeners get a hold of you?
They can visit my site, which is Fortune Marketing Inc., fortunemarketinginc.com. Lots of great info out there, and there's links there to my presence on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and all that good stuff. And I'd love to connect with folks. So check that out, and I'd love to engage with them.
Cool. I'll make sure all that stuff goes on our show notes. I'll put a link to your book so they can check that out, at least read the first chapter, see if they want to buy it. So that'll be awesome. You got some great comments on here. One by Dr. Ivan Meisner, and if nobody knows who that is, then they don't know much about networking. So
yeah, B&I can be a real key, especially in a contracting business. There's lots of folks like that in B&I chapters.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, Mark, thanks so much for being with us, and I really enjoyed this time together.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate you having me.
Awesome. Again, I want to thank you for joining us and investing your time with us today. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and if you did, go to iTunes and give us a shout out. You can also go to our website, www.contractorsecretweapon.com, and check out today's episode and leave us a comment in the bottom of the page. And if you haven't gotten your 15 secret weapon strategies to getting higher-end customers, get it while you're at the website. Also, I want to thank again our sponsors for keeping this podcast alive, for your profit-making pleasure. And so go be profitable this week. Work smarter, not harder, and learn how to leverage your time and your knowledge so that you can be more profitable. Again, see you next week.
Thanks for joining us for another weekly episode of the Contractor's Secret Weapon podcast with Dave Negri. We would love to hear your comments about this episode, so visit us online at www.contractorsecretweapon.com and let us hear your thoughts. If you are listening via iTunes, please leave us a positive review. The more positive reviews we receive, the more other contractors will benefit from this show. Thank you, and see you next time here on the Contractor's Secret Weapon Podcast.